So we talk about conferences or trade shows. B2B and in-person trade shows are not going away, in fact. And I know Nick, you and Mark, you guys talk a lot about this. These aren't going away, and in fact, maybe they're bigger than ever. But a lot of marketers are now looking at what is the investment towards in-venue sponsorship. We still want to have a presence there. How do we either sort of maximize our presence with the in-venue sponsorship with something outside of it, or maybe shift dollars from instead of investing inside, which can become costly, right? And maybe a little bit competitive. How do we shift that to something else so we still have that impact? We do a lot of conferences, and it's a great entry point, by the way, for B2B customers because your target ICP is typically in one place at one time. So it's hyper targeted. This is Cloudflare. We've done several international conference campaigns for these folks. But ultimately, they wanted to amplify their in-venue sponsorship at AWS reInvent in Vegas. Obviously, a lot of conferences. We do a ton here. The idea, and most of you know this, there's a journey to hit the conference attendee, right? We want to make sure that we have inventory along that journey. In a place like Vegas, we know that conference attendees aren't necessarily local, right? Most folks are going to be flying into Vegas. So we want to have some sort of a presence at the airport. When people land, your brand is top of mind. Then they're taking a car, an Uber, whatever it is, to the strip, to the hotel. Along the way, they're going to see and be exposed to billboards. That's also an excellent way to layer in your branding on those billboards along those major roadways to the airport, or excuse me, to the hotel, to the conference center. While you're there, there's an experience as well. How do we actually hit people when they're at the conference, when they're going to events off-site, other types of social gatherings, right? And that's where things like a wrapped car, digital taxi tops, or even a digital spectacular on the strip here that we're showing you in this picture.
I was going to say, I don't know how many folks are familiar with Drata. They were a competitor of ours at ThoroughPass, but they did a really cool wrapped car campaign at AWS reInvent, the Trust Fleet. And where they knew people were going to have a hard time getting Ubers, they basically created their own like Uber fleet, wrapped them in branding, and brought people to and fro. They got a ton of like social response to that campaign as well. So a lot of just really cool creative ways you can create more of an experience around the trade show events.
And by the way, so a lot of these digital billboards, or what we call spectaculars, which are just basically larger billboards like you're seeing here, offer full motion. So Mark, your question about creative, if it offers full motion, that means it can literally tell that story for 10 to 15 seconds versus a static digital image. Link squares, for folks that are familiar with who they are, if you go to their website, they have this gentleman who kind of like comes out of a doorway, and they leverage that and had him coming out of the door on their creative in their full motion spectaculars they did for Money 2020 in Vegas. So many different ways in different format types, even just for conferences.